Dubro Suspicion Files.
You think you know the story of the Burning Sun scandal. Of course you do. But today, we're going to peel back the layers and uncover its dark, hidden prequel. A story that doesn't start in a flashy nightclub, but with a forgotten murder.
Back in 2019, the world was absolutely gripped by the Burning Sun scandal. I mean, it was this perfect storm of celebrity, crime, and corruption that sent massive shockwaves through South Korea and beyond.
You remember the headlines, right? How could you forget? You had famous K-pop stars, these secret chat rooms, rampant drug trafficking, and, here's the most disturbing part, clear evidence that the very police who were supposed to stop it all were actually protecting the criminals. It was just a shocking, massive revelation.
But here's the question that really changes everything. What if the Burning Sun scandal wasn't the beginning of the story? What if it was just the loud, public explosion of a corrupt system that was perfected almost a decade earlier in a much quieter and much deadlier incident?
And that right there is the crucial point. Burning Sun, in the flashy district of Gangnam, that was the symptom everybody saw. But the disease itself, the original virus of corruption, well, that took root way back in 2010 in the port city of Yeosu, with a forgotten murder that laid the groundwork for everything that came after. So, let's rewind. To really understand what happened in 2019, we have to go back to 2010 and meet the one man who first discovered the rot from the inside. The stage for this prequel is a room salon. Now, don't be fooled by the name. These aren't just high-end bars. In South Korea's shadow economy, these places are basically corrupt boardrooms where illegal deals get made, prostitution is everywhere, and powerful men forge these illicit alliances over booze and cash.
And into this world walks Detective Lee Young-jun. You gotta understand, he was a total outsider, transferred from Seoul's elite Gangnam station. He had no local ties, a reputation for being a workaholic, and most importantly, he was investigating the very room salon that was paying off his colleagues. He wasn't just fighting criminals, he was fighting his own department.
And then, he found the smoking gun, a detailed, handwritten ledger. It documented every single monthly cash payment from the room salon to the highest levels of the local police and even the prosecutor's office. This discovery wasn't just evidence, it was a death warrant. It created a zero-sum game. If that ledger got out, their entire corrupt world would collapse. If they silenced him, they could survive. Just days later, he was found dead in a reservoir. The police immediately closed the case, ruling it a suicide. But the evidence on his body told a very, very different story, a story of murder. The official narrative was swift, clean, and decisive. Suicide due to work stress. But there's a huge red flag right here. The Yeosu police, the very same department implicated by that ledger, announced this conclusion before a complete forensic autopsy was even performed. I mean, come on, that's not an investigation. That's a predetermined narrative.
His final hours paint an even clearer picture. On his last day, he gets into a minor car accident and is seen pacing nervously. But then he does something crucial. He calls his insurance company to file a claim. Does that sound like a man planning to end his life? No, that's an act of future planning. Shortly after that, his phone goes dark, the data conveniently unavailable, and the next morning, he's found dead. The most damning physical evidence was literally on his neck. In a suicide by hanging, the mark from the rope is typically an inverted V shape, pointing up toward the knot. But the marks on Detective Lee's body were horizontal and continuous, a classic sign of homicidal strangulation, as if a wire had been tightened around his neck from behind. And it gets even more conclusive. When a person drowns, they inhale water, and the unique plankton from that specific body of water floods their organs. While forensic tests revealed the plankton in Detective Lee's body did not match the plankton in the reservoir where he was found. He was already dead or dying when he entered the water. He was killed somewhere else and dumped to stage a suicide.
And just look at this pattern. The black box memory card from his car, the one that would have shown his final moments, missing. The CCTV footage that could have tracked his car to the reservoir, suddenly lost. His cell phone data, unavailable. The obvious strangulation marks, ignored. This wasn't a series of unfortunate errors. This was a systematic and intentional inventory of a cover-up.
So, how does this forgotten murder in 2010 become the blueprint for that massive global scandal in 2019? This is where the two stories lock together perfectly. Look at the structure here.
It's identical. In Yes You the Hub was a room salon, at Burning Sun a nightclub. The currency changed from cash to VIP perks. The record went from a physical ledger to digital chat logs. The enforcer leveled up from a local cop to a high-ranking senior superintendent. And the threat was a whistleblower, one from the inside, one from the outside. It is the same machine, just scaled up for the big city.
But the model didn't just repeat, it evolved. The methods were refined. The response to a whistleblower went from physical elimination, murder, in 2010, to social elimination in 2019, using lawsuits and media defamation to absolutely destroy the accuser. Evidence destruction went from physically removing SD cards to using sophisticated anti-forensics to delete chat logs. They learned from Yusu. They got better at it.
And this is the absolute core of it all. By getting away with the murder and cover-up of one of their own officers, the corrupt elements inside the police were emboldened. The message was sent loud and clear throughout the system. You can do anything, and you will be protected. Impunity became the rule, not the exception.
So when the Burning Sun scandal finally broke, the public started connecting the dots. And there was this massive push to find justice for the man who tried to warn everyone a decade earlier.
Over 200,000 people signed a public petition in 2019 demanding a reinvestigation into Detective Lee's death. The public saw it clearly. Burning Sun was the symptom, but the murder of Detective Lee was the disease, and they wanted accountability.
But it failed. It failed because that initial cover-up was so successful. The statute of limitations had expired for key crimes like bribery. Critical evidence, the SD card, the CCTV footage, was gone forever. And the other officers, bound by a brotherhood of silence, refused to talk. The official review ended with this weak, toothless conclusion. The first investigation was flawed, but no one was ever held accountable.
And so, the story ends right where it began, with a deep, systemic rot that is yet to be fully exposed. The failure to solve this one murder didn't just deny justice to one man, it licensed a decade of corruption that followed. And until that truth is finally brought to light, the ghost of Detective Lee remains the system's silent and its most powerful accuser.